Welcome to episode 40 of the Martial Truth, cross training. Before we go forward, let's get some things out of the way. I'll be in New York next month, January 18th to 21st, conducting seminars. There'll be details in the description below if you'd like to contact Jimmy Waller, who runs the school I used to have in New York, Seishinkan East. I'll be conducting seminars over 4 days on Katori Shinto-ryu, Mariyoshi Kobudo, Sosui Shiru Jiu-Jitsu, Ishinru Karate, and Chen-style Tai Chi Chuan practical method. All right, so you can call him and contact him for details on that if you're interested in attending. We just hit 100 members, so we have 100 members for the channel, which is great. I'm going to look to do some new and different things now that we've hit that milestone. Subscriptions are up, which is great. Please click that like, share, subscribe button if you like the podcast. It's really helping a lot, and I appreciate everybody that's supporting the channel. It really means a lot, all right? Let's talk about cross-training. So, I always get the snarky comment on occasion from the individual that says to me, I don't understand how you can train in all these different martial arts. I have trouble just mastering one. And I usually roll my eyes and don't really even give an answer, because what's the answer? Because you're not capable of training in more than one and becoming highly proficient in them. That means everybody else is in the same boat as you. Well, I prefer to be I don't want to be a jack of all trades. I want to be a master of one and not be a jack of all trades. Okay, please, just stop, all right? You look at the history of martial arts, you'll see every single high-level martial artist trained in more than one martial art. Every single one. You use Ishinru as an example, okay? Tatsuo Shimabuku. He studied with Kian Chotoku, briefly studied with Chojo Miyagi, studied with Choki Motobu, and studied with Taira Shinkan. Okay, and Tatsuo himself was fond of saying, if you want to really learn real Kobudo, you should seek out a Kobudo master. All right, it's important, I think, to understand that if you cross-train properly, it's nothing but a benefit. All right, myself as an example. When I was in New York, I was teaching 6 martial arts. Right now in Arizona, I'm teaching 4. Maybe we'll add the other ones in the future, okay? I feel I get insight, from all these different arts. And what I like to look for is the common thread that flows through them. But on a physical sense, I think the weapons arts I do help keep me in tremendous physical condition. I'm swinging weapons. So, it's almost like using weights, all right? When I'm doing when I'm doing a side kata, right, it's clear that, I have a weight in my hand. So when I'm punching hard, it's a good benefit. It's making my muscles work more. So that cross-training is important, all right? I know what you'll say if you're doing Ishinru. Well, you have Kobudo and Ishinru. I agree, but I think a lot of people's Ishinru Kobudo is quite lacking. I went out and I trained seriously with a Kobudo master for many years, Gakiyo Yoshiaki sensei. And a lot of things he taught me, I realized was missing in my Ishinru. And I felt that those concepts and the way and the handling of the weapon really made my Ishinru Kobudo, really brought it up another level, which was great. All right. So I think it's a good idea. But again, you want to do your research. Find a good teacher, okay? Just because there's a big organization or something like that doesn't mean that, going back to the previous podcast with teaching's different from doing, okay? So it's very important to find that good teacher, okay? Cross-training for me, too, in terms of martial arts. I've trained in Chinese, Okinawan, Japanese arts. It's interesting culturally seeing the differences, but it's also physically, the training is somewhat different. The training method is different from art to art. I think that helps me physically. I think it keeps my body very supple, all right? Keeps my body very strong. I'm able to do things from the cross-training in the different martial arts, Okay, I highly recommend it. I've dabbled in a few things even just to experience those things, see if there were some ideas there that I could take and use to help to improve the other martial arts that I train in long term. Um, I have a problem. I mean, I'd love to train in every martial art, but training in the amount I train in now is hard enough, right? But I don't think I'm done. I think I probably will maybe do a little bit more serious training in some other arts down the road, even if I don't reach a high level of proficiency. But I think it's important as you get older to always be learning something new. You want those neurons in the brain to be firing. You want to force your memory to work. You want to force your brain to work hard to struggle with something, all right? So, I like to, one of my favorite sayings is I'm always a white belt in something, okay? And I think that's an important mindset. I understand I've reached a high level of proficiency in several of the arts I teach and practice, and that's great. But, I like to have that white belt mentality where I can go back and say I'm always a beginner at something, all right? And I think training in multiple arts helps you with that, because obviously not all the arts I'm as proficient in as I am some of the others, right? Which is good. Keeps you humble, makes you work, all right? But they all have a huge benefit in terms of helping me to train. And I'm not saying you do the ones I do. You find your own path. You may decide a different martial art is the way you want to go to enhance maybe your Ishinru or help your Ishinru, and vice versa, right? The other thing I'm a believer in is I'm a believer in doing some type of other exercise program. So not just martial arts. I do not, in my martial arts class, waste a lot of time with physical exercise. Now, what I mean by that is, I'm not doing a lot of push-ups, sit-ups. I'm not doing a lot of calisthenics. Some classes, I'll do more of that, just to kind of give the students a hard time, maybe make them check their fitness level, see where they're at, okay? Maybe make them think, wow, maybe I need to start doing a little bit more calisthenics in my life. Maybe I should start running a little bit, whatever it is. For a long time, my cross-training regimen in terms of non-martial arts, for years I was a runner, okay? I would go to the track in our local town and I would run on the track. I have a knee problem, my left knee. I was born with a knee problem. As I've gotten older, the inflammation's worse. My wife's a doctor. Several years ago, she said, okay, you're done with running. All right, you want to walk, which I do. I hike out here in Arizona. We love to hike, walk all the time, all right? Bike riding. So what I did was in New York, after I was told to stop running, I took up biking, all right? And, I would bike, a few days a week. I would bike up to 9, 10, 12 miles, okay? I felt that was great towards my training, kept my legs incredibly strong. It was great, all right? So biking was the thing. I am a big believer in calisthenics. I do push-ups. I do core work. Master Shimbuku no Okinawa loves jumping jacks, so I do jumping jacks, all right? And I do, those types of things to keep my body strong, all right? The other thing I'm a big fan of is kettlebell. I do kettlebell 3 days a week. I have a routine where I take usually 5 different kettlebell exercises, and I do, the 5 exercises in a row. I do 30 seconds of the exercise. I take a 30-second rest, and I keep doing that till I get through all 5 exercises. At the end of the one round, I take a minute rest, and then I go back and do it again, and I usually do that for 4 or 5 rounds. So it's roughly a 30-minute kettlebell workout. Tremendous, all right? What I like about the kettlebell is it's not only anaerobic, it's aerobic, so it's pure strength. You're using muscle. You have to use the kettlebell properly so you don't injure yourself. So, I recommend look into that if you're going to start a kettlebell routine. Aerobically, it's very good. The kettlebell swing is probably one of the best exercises you can do. Again, over the last couple of years, I've lost a bunch of weight. I lost literally, I was an all-time high when I first got out to Arizona, 188, and now I'm down to 163. I hope to get down to 160. Those last 3 pounds are tough, but I'm working on it. All right. And the cross training, I think, has a tremendous effect on that. So kettlebell, I strictly do. I'm 60 now, so I strictly do that to maintain my strength, work cardiovascular. I usually mix it up with also some martial arts training. So I do both in the same day. I've turned a few of my students onto the kettlebell. They're really liking it, especially a couple of the guys that are trying to lose weight. It's great for losing weight, all right? But you have to stick with it. You can't do it and then, stop and then go back. You have to develop consistency. Consistency in, your push-ups, if you're doing those. Consistency in your martial arts training, whatever those arts are. If you're going to do kettlebell consistently, if you're going to lift weights, I'm not opposed to lifting weights. I just find that going to a gym and working all these machines just takes up way too much time. I don't want to do it. I'm doing my kettlebell workout in 30 minutes. It's unbelievable. Okay, it's an unbelievable workout. And I really think it enhances my martial arts training. All right. As far as other things, obviously I do bag work. All right. I work the heavy bag. I work the makiwara. Okay. This is all cross training. All right. In martial arts, and so for instance, in Chen style Tai Chi Chuan, we have pole shaking. I have an 11-foot long waxwood pole, and I work the pole shaking exercises. They're brutal. Okay. They're incredibly tough. Right. Both cardiovascularly and your muscle. I mean, it really works your arms, your shoulders. It works the whole body. You're working the fa jin, the shaking power. It's fantastic. So I highly recommend that. We also have an exercise in Chen Tai Chi where we take a dowel, a piece of wood, we attach a rope at the top, and we put a weight on the bottom of it. And then we lean it over, like, say, the back of a chair so it's on an angle. And we hold it with our hand, and we just rotate it with our fingers like this. And we rotate so the rope goes around and pulls the weight up. And then we rotate it in reverse slowly, which is hard because the weight wants to spin and pull it down. And up and down. Tremendous for your forearms, your wrists, your finger strength. Tremendous, right? So that's another example of a little device you can make dirt cheap. I mean, a dowel, a piece of rope, and tie a 3-pound weight at the end of it, and if it gets too easy, 3-pound, tie a 5-pound weight, okay? So I do dumbbell training. I have a very small dumbbell routine I do. Usually on the same day I do kettlebell. Don't take much. I do some curls. I do some tricep work with it. I'm a little careful with certain exercises I do. If it bothers the knee, I don't do it. Okay. So again, you got to know your own body. You decide, okay, I'm going to look to do a kettlebell workout, and you do it, and you realize, boy, I'm hurting the next day. Like some things doesn't feel right. You need to realize what exercises are causing the problem, and probably stay away from those. And again, as you get older, you have to adjust your training. Okay, you can't go like you were when you're 25. All right. My workouts consist of, normally I'm out here daily. So normally, depending on how much I'm teaching, like Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm teaching 4 hours. So those days, if I do a workout, it's usually a light workout. I do kettlebell Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the days where I'm not doing the 4 hours of class. All right. So I try to balance my workouts and see not to do it. If I overdo something and the next day I wake up and I'm banged up, I'm feeling incredibly sore, I skip a day or two. I give my body a chance to rest. And in doing that, now I'm ready to go and go back and go full bore. All right. Another example that I think is good is also if you want to lose some weight and get in better shape, the cross training is a tremendous benefit. All right. Again, certain martial arts I do emphasize certain things. Other martial arts emphasize other things, which is fantastic. All right. Because you have the opposite, right? The yin yang, right? That's what we want. So other things you can do for cross training is, you can get together with friends maybe that do other martial arts. Train with them. What kind of training methods do you do? Let's see. All right. You can incorporate maybe a little bit of boxing into your work. I mean, I know in the karate, my karate curriculum here, we do pad work. People hold hand pads. We do combinations. All right. If people in karate think that's not karate, you're a fool. All right. Modern karate people move like stiff people. No, I don't want my karate people moving stiff. I want them moving smoothly. I want their footwork to be fast. So you can do all these different drills, that again bring a cross training element into your class. I've said in the past, when my students walk into school at night for class, I don't want them to have any idea what I'm doing. I want them to walk in and be like, oh, what's this sensei's doing tonight? And again, even within in each class, there's a cross-training element. We might do certain things in a kobudo class. So for instance, I have a bow that weighs 10 pounds. All right. You do your bow work with a 10-pound bow. Let me tell you something. When you pick up your wood bow, it feels like it's a toothpick. And none of my wood bows are toothpicks. But when I do work with that 10-pound bow and then I switch to my regular wood bow that I use, oh boy, super light. Okay? So that's another example of cross-training. Now I've brought in a new training device to the kobudo class, which is a 10-pound solid steel bow. Okay? And you'd be surprised. The young teenagers pick it up. Okay? The older students pick it up. The kids will pick it up. You'll even see 10-year-old kids, 9-year-old kids picking it up, going through their kata with the bow. And they have a hard time, but they do it. But again, I think it's a good idea. It creates that environment of training, of trying to figure out new ways to get better. I think a lot of times we're a little too stuck and set in our ways in how we do stuff. All right. I can't do 100 push-ups anymore, but I bang out sets of 20, all right? So if I'm doing 100 push-ups, I bang out sets of 20, all right? I do planks, all right? Again, it's important to vary the training. Cross-training and doing many different types of training is important. Like I said, out here, we go hiking. Some of the hikes are, on the easy scale. Other hikes are not very easy. Sometimes we go on a hike, we might do an 8-mile hike. Okay, that's a pretty good hike. And it's not like walking on a flat surface hike. You're going up and down. You might have to even climb a little bit, depending on what the level of difficulty you're doing on a hike. And it's fantastic. The other thing I noticed out here when we first moved out here was the altitude difference. So Floral Park, where I lived in New York, you're almost at sea level. Where I live in Whitman is about 2,500 feet above sea level. So the first month when we were first hiking, we were really feeling it. But our bodies adjusted to the altitude. So now when I go back to New York and I do a seminar or I work out there, oh my God, it seems so much easier because the altitude's so much lower. My body's used to a higher altitude, right? And, you've seen this with boxers. Boxers that are preparing for a fight will go to a higher altitude location, all right? And if they are fighting at a high altitude location, they will make sure they get there very early to build up their body so their body adjusts to that altitude difference. It matters, all right? You can do things like when I used to train sometimes, I wore one of the masks that it makes it harder for you to breathe, right? So now you're trying to breathe in that air. It's really working your lungs. All right. So you can do things like that. I mean, there's so many different cross-training things you can do. I'll have people use hand weights and do the kata with hand weights. And we know the Hojo Undo training in the in karate, right? Where you have the chi and all those different things, the jars. All right. So again, all this stuff is great as long as you don't overdo it, and as long as you get older, you adjust your training. All right. It's important. If you don't adjust your training, you start to injure yourself. And then once you start to injure yourself, that becomes a problem because now it becomes a chronic injury. Now you're dealing with a chronic injury. Now you're having a more and more, a harder time of working out and training. Right? I mean, I'm lucky. Even with my knee, which is a problem, I'm still able to do everything. I am a little bit more careful with certain movements with the knee, but I can still do everything. And I think it's important that to keep the body healthy, a cross-training regimen is something you strive for. All right. And again, you don't have to, do you have to do kettlebell 30 minutes 3 times a week? You can do kettlebell 10 minutes 3 times a week. All right. You can, decide, all right, I'm going to do, kettlebell Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and on Tuesday and Thursday, I'll do some push-ups. If you're younger and you like to run, okay, well, you run a little bit. Go out and run. All right, nothing wrong with running. It's excellent. And I used to do all kinds of different running. I would do sprint training. I would do long distance running. I would do stair work. I did everything, right? And again, as a police officer, I'm chasing criminals. So it was important that I could run. And again, what was I wearing? I'm wearing 20 to 30 pounds of gear as I'm running and chasing them down. All right. So again, that was a workout. All right. So again, I think it's important to look at cross training as not an enemy, but as a friend. All right. And again, like I enjoy kettlebell. I think it's fun. And I think it gives you the most bang for the buck. Because each kettlebell exercise, you're normally working more than one muscle group. Like it's a workout, right? And again, if you do decide to try some kettlebell, start with a light kettlebell. Don't go to a 55 pounder. Start with 10, 15, 20 pounder. Right? I use a 20 pounder. That's what I use. Okay. Some of the exercises are starting to seem a little light. So what I'll do is I'll have 2 kettlebells there, and some of the exercises I'll use a 30 pounder instead of a 20 pounder. All right. Again, all these different training ideas I think are really good. I think cross training is very important. Anytime you look at classical warriors, all right, and how they trained, they're doing martial arts, they're training, but they're also training in ways to enhance their physical strength, enhance their physical endurance. Like I said in a previous podcast, that all things being equal in 2 fighters, the person with the endurance will win out. All right. So try to think about implementing some different things in your training regimen, and think about the cross training. Maybe do a different martial art. I'll give you a quick example. I did kendo for about 2 years, and I really had no interest in kendo, but I did it with guys, and it was fun. Oh my God, it was fun, crazy fun. But you're wearing that armor, and you're fighting, and you're going at it. I mean, that is a workout. I mean, you take that armor off, you're drenched. So as far as a physical fitness workout, kendo was fantastic. Jiu-jitsu is the same thing. It's a physical art. You're taking falls, you're getting back up, throwing, taking falls. Very physical. So very, very good for the body and keeping the body in shape. Karate too, as long as, again, you have that wide-ranging approach to training. All right? So think about some cross training. All right? If you're a little overweight, you don't feel you're as strong as you should be, okay, well, try something else. Try kettlebell. Try some weightlifting. Maybe start a running program or a biking program or a walking program to get those pounds off, all right? And, in the future, I'll talk about diet a little bit in another podcast just to give people some ideas. I'm in no way an expert. You should seek out experts for that kind of stuff, but I'll give you some ideas of some of the things I do and I've done to lose some weight and get in better shape and maintain my fitness level. So hope you've enjoyed this one. Think about doing some cross training. All right. Again, hit the like button, please. Share, subscribe, become a member. It's great. It helps me out a lot. And I'll be in New York next month for seminars. Hope to see some of you there if you can attend. All right. The info will be in the details section. Thanks again. See you in the next podcast.